People who were spanked as kids, what was that like for you? Would you call your spankings abuse?
All I remember is wooden spoons. I don't remember what I did wrong. I do remember being terrified of a wooden spoon.
Yeah, that stupid wooden spoon. My mom used to smack us in the head too. I remember being around 16 years old and getting a C on an algebra test. She came storming into my room and tried to hit me in the head. But at that point in my life, I was just done with getting hit by this small, angry little woman, whom I could probably bench press, so I just swatted her hand away. She screamed at me, "Put your hands down." And like Neo in the Matrix, I just go, "Number." I just kind of looked down my nose at her and said, "We're not doing that anymore." She never tried to hit me again. I think I put the fear of God into her. My mother once hit me so hard that the wooden spoon broke. That's no small feat. She told this as a funny story when I was older. I don't speak to my mother anymore. It was worse when they made you go and retrieve the spoon before being hit.
I feel exactly the same. I don't have many memories from childhood, but being hit with a wooden spoon is especially salient.
My dad did it out of anger with a leather belt to the back of the legs. I grew up in the Deep South and it was and still is considered normal parenting. I do consider abuse, but I think my dad did it because that was the social norm. It's not okay though, and it has definitely contributed to my mental illness. I remember begging him to stop because the pain was so bad. Edit grammar.
I don't remember a single thing I was spanked for. I honestly have no recollection of what I did to deserve those spankings, other than pissing off mom somehow.
I think this might say it all. So often parents spank, bracket, smack, beat, because they are angry and or frustrated with the child or with their own lives. What can a kid do about it? It takes much more effort to teach children by talking with them and leading by example.
That's a good point. I don't remember why I got the belt. I was spanked one time because I was blamed for something I didn't do. I had and still have sensory issues. My lack of reaction freaked my father out.
I call it what it was: abuse. My parents tortured me to confess to things I didn't do.
I remember welts on my legs from the jug cord. I remember trying to hide them with my socks pulled up, but failing. They were noticed. 65-year-old me wishes she could tell 12-year-old me, "It's not you who should feel shame. Roll down your socks." I tried looking up what a jug cord is. Are you just referring to a 3-prong IEC power cable? Either way, I am sorry this happened to you. I hope you're well these days.
If you hit any other adult, it would be considered assault. But hitting kids too young to defend themselves, and then telling them you're hitting them because you love them? Totally fine. The abuse around the spankings and the fear and threats were bad. There were times later when I wished my parents would just beat me and be done with it, rather than scream and threaten and guilt trip me for literal hours. Oh yeah, my dad would regularly scream for 6 to 8 hours at a time. Can't remember a single thing he said. Just the spit absolutely covering his face to the point it would drip from his beard. All I could focus on was how fascinatingly and terrifyingly disgusting he was. I'm glad to say I never pretended to respect the man. Fear, sure, but never affection or respect. But if he didn't want his kids scurrying around like cockroaches to avoid him, he shouldn't have been whatever the hell he was. Rotten hell, you old bastard. Oh, I can relate to this. I realized my dad only continued to hit me until I started crying. After that, I almost wished he would just beat me and get it over with. Instead, sometimes he would lecture for hours, trying to get a different answer out of me. The funny thing is, he blamed me for wasting his time as if I were the one making him stand there looking for an answer that nobody knew about. He used to whip me with a belt. He had a hard leather one he used, and one made out of bullet casing he threatened me with. It didn't matter what it was that I did, he just used me to take his anger out on. One time I got a boil infection, and I'm talking massive painful ones, on my ass of course. I could barely sit as it was. I was, I think, 8 or 9 at the time in boarding school, home one night a week, and the rest at school. I just remember getting in trouble for one reason or another, probably something my older brother did and blamed me for. Spanked with a wooden hairbrush, spokes facing towards me, puncturing the boils and causing massive amounts of pus and bleeding. That was one of the worst times. The rest were usually the wooden spoon. Can't remember a single thing that I was actually in trouble for. I'm doing it because I love you. Bullshit.
What they were doing to you made you crave violence so that it'd be over. I am so sorry you went through that. They are terrible people, and you didn't deserve that.
I remember it as reinforcement for the screw-up I made. I was sat down and talked to prior to each spanking, and made sure I understood why I was being punished for what I did. I would not call it abuse in my case.
Same. The wrong was detailed, questions answered, but there was no avoiding the rice paddle.
It's not abuse if you're a kid, but absolutely abuse if you're an adult? Sorry, it was abuse. Hitting the most vulnerable people with the least understanding of what's happening around them is the worst kind of abuse.
My spankings, more like solo pops on the bum or wrist with an open hand, were given very infrequently, either as a last resort after all other disciplinary measures had failed, or as a quick deterrent to a dangerous behavior, for example, running out into the street. I was okay with this and do not consider it abuse. My parents were and are very loving and would never intentionally hurt me.
Same. As I got past the age of 5, it turned into timeouts, then drawn-out lectures talking through what I did was wrong and why. Love both my parents to death, and in no way would I consider the spankings abuse. They weren't beatings. It was an instant reality check, like touching a hot stove when you were told not to.
That was exactly the same experience I had growing up, not used often, and it wasn't overly aggressive. I don't personally do it to my kids, but I don't consider it to be wrong either.
Very similar to my thoughts. My dad spanked me, only with his hand, never a belt or anything else, and I remember it was pretty painful, but to be honest, I probably deserved it. I definitely don't consider it abuse, but if I had kids, I don't think I would spank them.
See, I think the big difference here is your parents kept calm and in control of themselves. It wasn't an outlet for their anger to hit you. That is the big difference between correction and abuse, though, in general, I guess. The spankings were fine. The beatings and grudges my parents held on to were problematic. My dad made me sleep in the garage and didn't talk to me for 3 months when I was 10 because I said no when he asked if I wanted to watch him work on the car. He'd never show me anything or even let me hold the light for him, and frequently yelled and beat me so I thought I could avoid another beating. He only spanked me for getting bad grades in school.
What a douchebag. My dad never spent time with me. The few times I asked to hold a light or help, I would get yelled at. You will slow me down. I got the belt, but no physical beatings. Looking back, if my dad spent time with me and played with me, I would not have done the things that caused the belt. I have 12-year-olds. I play with them and let them help me at times. Forget you, Dad. Man, my mom would hold grudges for months, too. I just can't imagine being that angry and grouchy in life. I really don't know what was going on with her. I think she had an untreated hormone imbalance or something. The times an object was used that broke the skin and/or marks were left that lasted for days, whether from an object or bare hands, yeah, I'd say that was abuse. Thanks for the lifelong hypervigilance and deep feelings that I am unlovable, Mom and Dad. All it taught me was to fear touch. To this day, even someone tapping me on the shoulder makes me flinch. My parents always used to give me grief over it too. For example, why do you never let us hug you? Because you always hit me?
Yeah, it's been 40 or so years since the last time someone hit me, and it's still deeply uncomfortable for me to let anyone inside my personal space.
Holy crap, I need to connect these two. My therapist has been searching for sexual abuse in my past for years to explain my aversion to touch, and I never even thought to mention the belt.
Just posted about this topic yesterday in the Gen X sub, coincidentally. My dad was crazy with the spankings. He'd beat the crap out of us for any mistake. Spilling the milk got you hit in the same kind of way as though you'd deliberately broken a family heirloom. It made me grow up being deathly afraid of making any mistakes, ever. I never had kids, but when I got my first cat, I realized I'd never treat an animal that way, much less a human child. We'd react to being hit with tears, which would make him say, "I'll give you something to cry about." And he'd just keep hitting us more and harder until we were too traumatized to be able to cry anymore. I'm 49 and still can't cry about anything to this day. I am happy to report that he died around 20 years ago.
I feel you on being too hurt to cry anymore. I'm in the same boat. I'm not a violent person. I'm also fairly short and skinny. But if someone starts a fight with me, I am bringing decades of trauma and utterly psychotic levels of violence to the table. My most prominent memory of it is my dad holding me upside down by the leg as a little kid, taking me downstairs to spank me while I cried and begged for my mom to save me, and she didn't even glance in my direction. That really left something behind I've never really been able to get over even all these years later, and I'll never be able to forgive them for making me scared for most of my childhood. I never truly loved my dad. I was just scared of him. And I'm still scared of him now. I was never taught discipline or manners, just to be quiet and small when my parents were around. I learned everything about being a good person on my own through trial and error. I truly believe spanking is abuse, and it doesn't work the way people seem to believe it does.
Yes, and I hated my father for it. I swore every time he did it that I'd kill him once I was old enough. Now that I'm older, I figured that murder wasn't the way to go, so I just cut contact instead.
This is why I say my parents, and my mom in particular, better never come around with her grubby paw out wanting elder care of any kind. She doesn't want me to care for her like she cared for me. I was lightly spanked like twice as a kid. Not by a long shot was I ever abused. My dad was the freaking GOAT, and my parents loved the hell out of me. He passed when I was young, in 2001. Rest in peace, Daddy. I love you.
Same. Lightly twice. Never had bad feelings about it at all, but I am very against spanking because I've heard the damage it can do. Rest in peace, your dad.
This sounds like my parents. There'd often be the threat of, "Stop that or you'll get a smack." But it only ever happened a handful of times, after numerous warnings, and very gently. There was never a sense that they were lashing out or losing their temper, just making sure the threat wasn't completely hollow.
In your same boat, I'm Gen X, and spanking essentially went from being recommended discipline to considered abuse during my early childhood, and my parents followed the trend and just stopped spanking. The few times I was spanked, I was more upset by having done something wrong and being punished than the spanking itself, which didn't hurt and was more of a formality. I also remember a time after my parents stopped spanking when my sister did something really bad, and so, as punishment, they took away some fruit-striped gum she had just gotten as a special treat, and she was begging them to just spank her instead. They did not. This is not at all an attempt to say spanking wasn't bad or make light of others' terrible experiences, just my personal answer to the question.
Absolutely. To be honest, I don't actually remember mine. My memories always stop after my dad would barrel towards me, but I remember some of my sisters very vividly. She was about 8, and I don't even remember what she did, but I remember my dad grabbing her arm and repeatedly spanking her as she struggled and tried to get away. He lost his grip, grabbed her again, and dragged her back to him, and he continued to hit her harder. She doesn't remember that at all.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. It really helps. Subscribe for more, and tap the bell so you don't miss the next one.